Timberwolves, it's time for Bringing the Heat.
I don't think one player will influence things as much as you might think.
Yeah.
With Kade Moore and Elijah Mosier.
It makes another team it's near to impossible to beat anybody.
Minnesota, time and time again, cannot win in the postseason.
Don't want to let people know what I'm thinking and what knowledge I can share to everybody.
Or our lack of knowledge.
Welcome into Bringing the Heat, Elijah Mosier alongside Kade Moore. Summer edition, season 2. Kade, first week of summer, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Just been actually pretty busy just after classes wrapped up on Thursday. I've been work with my dad mowing lawns, and on Saturday and Sunday I made a trip down to Kansas City for my cousin's grad party. So been pretty busy as of first couple days of summer.
Yeah, I mean, it was grad party weekend in Columbus too. I hit up a bunch of those this weekend. And not only was it a great grad weekend, it was also a pretty good sports weekend. There's a lot of different things going on. You had Preakness, the second leg of the Triple Crown. You had the NBA and NHL playoffs going on. You had Indy 500 qualifying. And there was just the PGA Championship. There's so many things going on, and it's hard to touch on it all, Kade.
Yeah, it's hard to keep an eye on everything and watch everything, or watch what's going on all the time, because if you want to watch the NBA, you're just going to have the NBA game on. At the same time, there's going to be PGA on, and then there was the horse race around. It was about around 6 o'clock on Saturday, so it's just hard to keep track of all of it. But it was a stacked sports weekend for sure.
All right, let's try to get into it. Let's start off right with the NBA playoffs, and the Minnesota Timberwolves have advanced into the conference finals, and it feels good, Kade. I didn't think they were going to make it. I said last week after they were up by, I think they were down by 7 with 20 seconds in the half. They dropped down, they were down by 15 at the half. That's the moment where I thought the series was over after having 2-0 lead. And then last night they took home game number 7, and now we're in the Western Conference Finals. I'm not even sure how that happened.
Yeah, it was honestly, I was in the same mind frame as you, or had the same thinking as you. I did not think the Timberwolves were not going to get by the Nuggets. The Nuggets just way too dominant in that 3-game stretch where they went 1-3 in a row. Then the Timberwolves kind of blew them out in Game 6, and having the biggest comeback in Game 7 history, the Minnesota Timberwolves coming back from 20 points there, just a crazy comeback, and just it all kind of started in that third quarter. It just went on I think it was like a 15-0 run, or wasn't it at one point in that third quarter? It was just a crazy comeback there in that second half.
And you say biggest Game 7 comeback in Timberwolves history. That was only the second Game 7 in Minnesota playoffs history. The last one, 20 years ago to the date of yesterday. And that was 2004. The only other time that the Timberwolves in franchise history have made it to the conference finals. And so when I went on that big spiel last week about how long it's been. It's been 32 years since reaching the championship series of any sport, and it's been that long. Well, now the Timberwolves are 4 wins away from that, and as a Minnesota stan, it feels really good to be here. And I was talking with other Minnesota fans last night. It's like anything beyond this point is just extra. It just feels so good to finally get to this point. And by the way, we have home court advantage in the Western Conference Finals too.
Yeah, no, that's actually, it was just, I don't know, it was just a crazy comeback and it was just like nobody thought the Timberwolves, they're down 15 against the against the Nuggets there at halftime, they have no chance of coming back here. But the role players really stepped up for the Timberwolves last night, with Anthony Edwards going 6 for 24 from the field, and then having Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid coming off the bench for him, just really stepping up for that Timberwolves squad and kind of carrying them to that victory. So that's kind of another thing probably a lot of people didn't predict. They're like, we need Anthony Edwards to score 30 to 40 points to win this game, but that was just the complete opposite. The role players for that Timberwolves squad really pushed them over the edge there.
Yeah, McDaniels and Towns stepped up. They both had 23 points, but Anthony Edwards, 6 of 24. He said in his post-game interview that when it's not your night, you just have to rely on your teammates. And I'm like, for what? You kept shooting the ball. Were you relying on them to get the offensive rebound and do the job and pick up your slack? Because when Ant's not shooting like he was last night, he needs to pass the ball away. He led the team in assists too. He had 7 assists. But at the same time, during the last stretch in the fourth quarter, the reason Nuggets were creeping on in there was because he was taking some bad shots. He was trying to lead this Timberwolves team over the hump when he just needed to let his teammates take control. And that's going to be the difference in this Western Conference Finals. If Ant is having a rough night because he's getting locked up by the Mavericks, is he going to allow his teammates to take control, or is he going to be relying on them to get the offensive rebound when he takes a terrible shot?
Yeah, I really hope he realizes that what teammates he has around him. He has some of the best defenders in the league on his team with Rudy Gobert and Jay McDaniels. Both could be Defensive Player of the Year in and year out. And on the offensive side of the ball, you have Karl Anthony Towns and Mike Conley and players like that can also shoot the ball well. And that's kind of, he needs to rely on his depth for the Timberwolves to kind of continue moving on throughout the playoffs, because that's what kind of messed up the Nuggets. They did not have a lot of depth. I think they had 5 bench points in that Game 7 game, I just looked the Nuggets just looked shot at the end of that game. They looked so tired, and they kind of with not having Bruce Brown this year, they just don't have a lot of depth on that Nuggets squad. Which I don't think the Nuggets need to kind of disband their team. They can kind of stick with the guys that they got, but they got to find a way to build that bench and help that starting 5 out. But they have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's coming up on the end of his contract this summer. But it's going to be interesting with this Nuggets team in the future. But I'm excited to see what this Minnesota Timberwolves team can do coming up here in the Western Conference Finals.
They're the Nuggets were the defending champions. I don't have too much sympathy for them, but Jokic said it afterwards in his press conference that the Timberwolves have arguably two defensive team members, and Jane McDaniels and Rudy Gobert, 2 all-stars in Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, and then one of the most underrated players in the NBA in Mike Conley, plus the 6th man. This is a really good team that for some reason hasn't really been slept on. Then everybody started to regard them as the favorite, and then they hit a slump. But then they came back and Game 6 and 7, and that sets up an interesting series against the Dallas Mavericks, who went out, got the 6-game series win over the Thunder. And this was one where I was kind of expecting based off of an experience. Kyrie's been there before. Luka's had some more playoff experience. This Thunder team does not have a wide array of playoff experience because of how young they are. And in the end, I thought that would be what would kill them, and it did.
Yeah, I think this Thunder team is a year away from being one of the more dominant teams in this league, but they didn't really have the size. I feel like the matchup with this Mavericks squad, with Luka being 6'7" at point guard, but then having Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford as their big players, and then even the other guards like PJ Washington, just having a real size advantage against that Thunder squad. So I feel like that was kind of the main reason why they kind of struggled against them, and I feel like that's one thing that the Thunder are going to need to look for in the draft coming up here, or in the free agency, to get another big guy along with Chet Holmgren, because you're seeing teams like that now, like the Timberwolves having a three big guy lineup like Naz Reid with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, and then for the Nuggets having Joker and Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. having multiple different players that have size. So I feel like that's what the league is kind of trending back to, what the olden days of having a 2 big lineup, and I feel like that's what the Thunder will need. But I'm really enjoyed watching that Game 6 comeback by the Mavericks. Kyrie Irving and Luka just absolutely going unconscious, making every shot. It was just real fun to watch both those players just hitting this crazy step backs, sidestep 3-pointers, and being able to, both those guys being able to lob the ball up to Derek Lively. So they're a real fun team to watch, and I'm really excited for this matchup between the Timberwolves and the Mavericks here in the Western Conference Finals.
And so that's going to be a good setup here. I agree with you. I think the Thunder are just a year or 2 away the last 2 years, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they went out in the first round, and now they've reached the Western Conference Finals. I think the Thunder are a little bit ahead of that schedule, and I think this could be the dawn of a new era in the Western Conference. I think the Nuggets are going to be around to stay for a while, but I think we're going to start to see more of a Thunder and Timberwolves mentality into where they're the cream of the crop in the West. I think starting next year or maybe the year after, it'll be the Nuggets chasing them, the Lakers chasing them, the Clippers chasing them. I don't think some of those teams are far away, but I think we're seeing those young superstars start to take over the top of the West.
Yeah, I kind of jumped a little head there before, but because I started talking about the Mavericks and the Thunder series. But I don't know, I'm just really pumped for this Eastern Conference final or Western Conference, excuse me, conference finals. And but yeah, this Minnesota Timberwolves, they're going to bring the defense every night, but it just whether they're going to bring it on the offensive side of the ball. So really just interested to see that. But I agree with you on that. It's going to be the Thunder and the Timberwolves conference here in the years moving forward. But it's going to be. But I still think the Nuggets are going to be around. But the Western Conference is year in and year out the more competitive conference out of the two.
And I also got to put this out here for Minnesota. Since 1991, they're now in the Western Conference Finals. This would be I gotta count this quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is only like the 8th round that they've won since 1991 in the MLB, the NHL, or the NBA. That's not including the NFL, which is like 8 more games. Like, this is not a city that's used to this kind of playoff success. And the reason I bring that up again is because they're playing Dallas. And if you look at the postseason history of Dallas, I mean, they're used to this. Last year, the Texas Rangers won the World Series. The Dallas Stars are in the Western Conference Finals in the NHL. They have won more rounds in like the last 2 years than Minnesota has in the last 32 when it comes to the postseason. So you're looking at it from not only a Mavericks versus Timberwolves side, you're looking at a city that isn't used to being here and a city that's here all the time. And that's really exciting to see from a fan perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I saw a graphic actually that talked about what you were talking about on the Dallas side. They were saying, I think it was like 77 days since or it was more than that, but however many days since the Rangers made the conference finals, and then it started the Timberwolves the Dallas Stars, it was like 0 days since they made a conference finals, and then what's the other team in there you were just saying? The Stars.
We're talking about the Mavericks.
Oh yeah, the Mavericks. Yes. Okay. Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm blank there. Sorry. And then they showed the Dallas Cowboys. In the Dallas Cowboys, it's been over 10,000 days since they made the conference finals or the NFC Championship. But I just think that was funny. But it's two opposite cities that had different histories going against each other. So it definitely adds to the parity of this series.
And even with that graphic, it said like 70-some days since the Texas Rangers, and the Rangers, they're the World Series champions. That should technically be 0, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking.
In their last season, every single Dallas team but the Cowboys have made it to the conference finals. And now we're going to see what happens here. And that will be very interesting to keep an eye on. But this will be a good series. Kyrie Irving is still undefeated in closeout games, so I don't think this is going to go 7. I think this is going to go 6. I think it's going to be 4-2 one way or another. Right now, just because I'm doubting my Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm going to put the edge at Dallas 55% to win it in 6 games.
That's a very solid prediction, but I feel like I'm sticking with my gut here. You kind of made me change into picking the Nuggets into the winning the championship, but I'm back on my Timberwolves bandwagon. I think Timberwolves. I don't know how many games. I think 6 games. I like that. Timberwolves in 6 games over the Dallas Mavericks to make it to would that be their first ever NBA Finals for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going with the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are a fun team to watch, and they have the perfect team to win it all this year, in my opinion.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm saying
Don't
it.
say
I'm gonna
that.
say it, and I'm sorry. I'm saying it.
Let's go to the East now. I said it last week. I think that the Celtics could win it in 5. Well, that's what they did. They took care of the injury-ridden Cavaliers, and then yesterday another Game 7. The Pacers took out the Knicks on the road in Game 7. That was kind of astonishing. And don't tell me the in-season tournament doesn't mean anything. The in-season tournament runners-up and the Indiana Pacers, they have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. If only the in-season tournament champions could have done something like that, but no, they got bounced in the first round, whoever they are.
Yeah, but I'm excited. Or I think that was a very good addition. Adam Silver brought to the league was that in-season tournament, and that's kind of showing here now that the team that won it or got runner-up, is in the Eastern Conference Finals in the Indiana Pacers. But Game 7, I actually got to watch a little bit. I was driving back from Kansas City last night, so I was watching on my phone a little bit. But the Pacers had the best shooting half. Stat came up on my on my phone, best shooting half in NBA history, I think it was, and I was just like, with everything that the Knicks are dealing with all these injuries that they have now, they have the Pacers having the best shooting half in an NBA playoff game ever. It's just like, what else? Like, it's just the Knicks had so much bad luck, and then Jalen Brunson breaking his hand, and then when I heard that, I knew, yeah, this is over. It's just, I knew that if the Knicks even won the series, I thought the Celtics were going to get by them, but you have to really give props to this Knicks team with their roster they had. Nobody really thought they would be here. So Jalen Brunson's a reporter asked him in his post game press conference, was this season a success? And he said no. But as a team leader, you kind of expect you kind of like that as your team leader saying that. But as a fan perspective from us, you would say that the Knicks did have a very successful season. But the interesting thing that I noticed about
I actually disagree. I don't
you
think
don't
they
think it
had
was
a successful
I thought it was a
season.
successful season for the Knicks.
I
Even though
think for the Knicks, they came in as the number 2 seed in the East. Their
Mhm.
expectation was to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, if not make it to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
If it was the Pacers, if they would have lost yesterday, yeah, I would have said that was a successful season. But the Knicks, I don't think so.
I don't know. I just think with all the injuries that they went through to make it where they were at, I think it is just very astonishing in my opinion. But I feel like since they were the second seed, make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but just so many injuries, and I'm really excited to see this team next year if they can all stay healthy. But that's what they were actually talking on a sports show this morning I was watching. They were talking about Tom Thibodeau, the coach of the Knicks, and how hard he makes his practices. And they were kind of maybe saying maybe he needs to line up on his practices a little bit because his whole team was hurt by the end of the year. Because maybe all these other teams are resting a lot throughout the playoffs, but he still has his players going all out at practices and stuff. But it's very interesting to
That's
see.
just
But
how things work.
yeah, it's just how things.
Everybody's always tired
Everyone
and
is always
injured.
tired. But kind of thing I noticed was too this Pacers squad. It's I guess and the Celtics, both teams have played against injury riddled squads throughout to make it to where they are. If you think about it, with the Pacers drawing the Nucks or the Bucks having Damian Lillard and Giannis getting hurt in the second round, the Knicks having injuries with OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson, and then for the Celtics having Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen getting hurt in that second round for the Cavaliers, and in that first round, Jimmy Butler being hurt against the Celtics in the 1st round. So it's kind of interesting that both these teams kind of have similar paths to the Eastern Conference Finals, but this one is definitely going to be an interesting one for sure. But I don't know. I'll be close. I feel like.
I know I said that the Mavericks have a better chance of winning the Western Conference Finals. I know that I said that. But, ESPN was looking like a MSG alternate network yesterday. They were all about the Knicks. And so I want to see the most disastrous thing happen to ESPN and have an Indiana Pacers and Minnesota Timberwolves final. They'll have zero clue what to do without having Dallas, Denver, or Boston. They'll have zero clue what they're doing. And so they want New York to win so bad. And so give me the Pacers in 7. Give me the Timberwolves in 6. And let's have a NBA Finals that none of the big cities care about.
That would be very funny because that's every single time you flip on ESPN, they have Lakers, Knicks for the NBA. It's the two biggest markets, and then same with the NFL. They talk about Cowboys, Packers, and when the Patriots were good, that's all they talked about were those three. They talk about all the big market teams. So I think that was hilarious. I watched the Pat McAfee show a little bit this morning.
Yes.
He threw on his gloves and he was talking about how the Pacers from Indiana went in there and started gardening in the MSG, and it was the funniest thing ever. But it'll be interesting. But I just think the Celtics are going to be too much for this Pacers squad. As much as I would love to see the Pacers make it to the NBA Finals with kind of a new blood team finally getting in there, but I think the Celtics are gonna win in 6. But kind of bringing it back here to the Pacers and Knicks series. I think Pacers and Knicks. They kind of rekindled this rivalry. Dante DiVincenzo going at Miles Turner and Halliburton. A lot of trash talk going on during that game, and I love watching that during playoff basketball. We're not all friends here in the playoffs. We all want to win the championship. Like, we all want to win the NBA Finals. I love seeing these guys go back and forth with each other, and I think this Knicks and Pacers rivalry kind of is restarting again from where back where it did in the '90s. So I love seeing that, love seeing that in the NBA playoff, like an atmosphere like that.
I would like to see that too. I think that'd be really fun. And so, either way, NBA playoffs, they got me interested again. The Timberwolves are doing pretty solid. We'll see if they can keep that way. But let's circle into the PGA Championship from Valhalla. Of course, there's the interesting situation with Scotty Scheffler. But then again, Xander Schauffele ended up winning 21 under par. He had to birdie the last hole since DeChambeau tied him up in his. And so what was exciting about this is it came down to the final hole, the final stroke of the day. And it was an exciting event. I watched the end of it. Excited to see that Schauffele got his first major win. And, I mean, it was a pretty entertaining PGA Championship.
Yeah, I'm glad Xander Schauffele was able to hold on there until the end. He was leading after day 2, and they were kind of talking about if he could hold on, not kind of never being in this situation before, and in which he did. But it was a really fun event to watch. I didn't get to watch the end of it, but I did watch throughout the week periodically whenever it was on the TV, and it's just always impresses me how good these golfers are and how many just long putts they're draining and these low scores that these players are putting down, especially even though he didn't win with Scotty Scheffler getting arrested after before his round 2 and then going out there and shooting 5 under par is just honestly one of the craziest things I've probably ever seen in sports after being in a jail cell and then going out there and playing one of the tougher golf courses in the United States and shooting 5 under par, but not a very good look for Louisville, Kentucky for the PGA Tour after something like that happens.
Yeah, it was quite chaotic, and I won't speak on it very much until the full details come out.
Yeah, same
But
here.
either way, it was very
Pretty
unfortunate.
wild, but I was glad to see Bryce DeChambeau up there. He's kind of even though he's a live golfer, I still kind of like rooting for him just because he plays golf a little bit different than everybody else. He uses a long flat stick putter. All of his clubs are the same length, and he hits the long ball really well. And there was a clip of him throwing a ball to a young boy after one of his holes, and older guy stole the ball from the little guy, and he made sure to be like, "Hey, that was for him, not you." So it was kind of a changing in personality, or people didn't used to like Bryce DeChambeau, but I feel like that's kind of changing now. A lot of people. Has a really big YouTube page, and he has. I feel like he has just positive vibes all around him. So you love seeing a guy like Bryce DeChambeau making it all the way up to second place.
Yeah, that was good to see as well. Of course, very busy, sports weekend. And my aunt just sent me this tweet. Dallas sports fans have had it great lately. Stars back to the Western Conference Final. Mavs Western Conference Final 2 out of the last 3 years. Rangers World Series champs last year. And Cowboys had that one weird play where Zeke snapped it to Dak in the playoffs. We kind of established on that, but the Zeke part was very funny. And now she doesn't know that we're recording this right now, so she'll get a kick listening to it later, hearing that I mentioned that tweet out.
And then Zeke also is back on the Cowboys this year, so that won't be his last ever play as a Dallas Cowboy. So
I'm kind
that's
of
kind of
sad
good.
about that.
I am kind of
I
sad
wish
about
that
that
would have
because
been
that
his
was a
last
pretty.
play.
I wish that it was
That
a
was a
pretty
great
funny
play.
meme, but it was a funny meme that came about that for so
It,
long.
it,
But
it seemed like an
well,
impractical Joker's meme. All right, now line up Zeke at center with no
center.
protection and do play protection because he just got lit up and ended the Cowboy season pretty fast. That was awesome. Anyway, NHL playoffs continued. Like we mentioned, Stars are back into the Western Conference Finals. They defeated the Colorado Avalanche in 6 games. They await the winner of Canucks and Oilers tonight when they're playing Game 7 at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Eastern Conference, the finals have been set. The Florida Panthers got past the Bruins in 6 games, and the New York Rangers got past the Hurricanes in 6 games as well. So what I'm going to ask you to keep this segment pretty quick, Canucks or Oilers tonight?
I'm gonna take Connor McDavid and the Oilers. My 7th grade math teacher was a big Oilers fan, so I'm going with Miss Rand and the uh, Edmonton Oilers.
Kenny Albert grew up as a Vancouver Canucks fan, even though his father called games for the New York Rangers, so give me the Canucks. Moving on here to the start of the WNBA season. This is all Kate has wanted to talk about all day long. This is
Oh yeah.
his most anticipated segment here. He wanted to watch Caitlin Clark play so badly last Tuesday, and the Indiana Fever are winless to start the season.
Yeah, which kind of not shocked there. They were kind of the bottom feeders of the WNBA last year, and it kind of shows you that one player can't do it all with Caitlin Clark. She had a good game against the Connecticut Sun in her, I think it was in her 3rd game, but she has struggled as of now playing against one of the best defensive teams in the WNBA in the Connecticut Sun. But it's been kind of interesting watching watch her kind of get adjusted to this WNBA style of play with a slower pace, but obviously she struggled here to start off, but it's been a fun start to the WNBA season with a lot more publicity they're getting this year. But the New York Liberty and the Aces again right at the top as we expected. Like we were talking about last
And
week.
don't just stop it right there. The Connecticut Sun are undefeated at 2-0, and the Minnesota Lynx are 2-0 as well. 2 very exciting games. And Friday night they played the Seattle Storm. That game went to double overtime. That was a very exciting game. I watched 2 double overtime games on Friday night. I don't remember what I was watching initially. Actually, my family was watching Blue Bloods. They went to sleep. I watched the season finale of SWAT. And then I turned on the Storm and the Lynx. They went to double overtime. Lynx pulled out the victory. And then I pulled on the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. And the Stars won in double overtime. It was a fantastic night for me on Friday night. But Lynx 2-0. Got to give that Minnesota shout out there. But the rookies are having a little bit of an interesting start to the season. Some of those top rookies like Cameron Brink with the Sparks, winless. Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark winless. And I feel like this would be the appropriate time because I brought up that I made 2 WNBA fantasy teams last week. And I think now is the right time to bring up the results from last week. So far the All-Star rookies, this team is made up of Caitlin Clark, J.C. Sheldon, Cameron Brink, Kaya Jackson, Aaliyah Edwards, Angel Reese. Those were my starters last week. Yes, I altered it based on who was playing, but they're 0-1. Last week they got beat 479 to 298. My top performer last week, let's see who it was. Top performer was Caitlin Clark with 98 points. Nobody else really did anything. So Caitlin Clark really stepping up so far out of the rookies. And then my team in Minnesota, the Minnesota Royalty, also 0-1. They fell 353 to 487. They only had 2 games, and so it's kind of rough on them. But just thought you would like an update on that, Cade.
Yeah, definitely. With these rookies, still are not even just Caitlin Clark, all the kind of the star rookies that were getting a lot of publicity just a couple months or just earlier this month in the WNBA draft. But so yeah, we're gonna see if those those WNBA players that are rookies can adjust to the new
And
style of
like you
play
were
that the
and like you
WNBA
were
offers.
expecting,
Yeah, it was which
Caitlin
we all
Clark did.
or you go. Yeah,
This is the difficulty with going remote here, trying to figure
yeah, so,
out who's talking when, maybe a little bit of lag. But like you were expecting, Caitlin Clark broke records. That Indiana Fever game, one of the most viewed WNBA games since like 2001, I think I saw. It had over 2 million people watching. It outviewed the game on the hockey game on ESPN. Although I'm not sure some of the other ratings from this first week. I tried seeing if I could find those anywhere. Unfortunately, I couldn't. But that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Of course, the Aces played right after the Fever. I will say that I watched a little bit of the Fever against the New York Liberty on Saturday, in which the Liberty just dominated that game all the way throughout. But what's interesting is that all these games are on like a bunch of different networks, and so like you have some games on Ion. I didn't even know I had Ion until the Lynx were playing on Ion on Friday night. Apparently there's WNBA games being streamed there. Okay, I didn't know I had that. Amazon Prime has some games, ESPN, CBS, but yeah, there's just a lot of different places that cover WNBA games, and I'm kind of shocked that like the CW network isn't one of those places.
yeah. When I was scrolling through ESPN, just kind of checking who is playing on the scores tab or whatever for WNBA or NBA, whatever sport it was. But I saw that Eon channel. I'm like, I've never heard of that channel. I need to maybe scroll through my Allo channels and see if we have it here. But it is interesting that there's just so many different networks. Everybody's trying to get their piece of the WNBA because they're seeing a possible growth here in the next couple of years, and maybe some of these obscure networks want to try to hop on early before all these other networks do. But ESPN is the main one that has been covering it, and the Sun and Fever play again tonight at 6 p.m. on ESPN. So Caitlin Clark will be back in action tonight.
Do you got anything else on the WNBA, or is that where it stops for today?
We can wrap it
All
up
right,
there.
well, all right, I'm done with that. Moving on into our next segment called the College Roundup. I can't wait to go back and listen to that later. Like the look on your face was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, what is he doing?
It's Elijah playing with his new toys. That's what it is. But anyway, College Roundup. I don't know what we're going to lead off with. How about the women's tennis team? They're down in Orlando. They're in the Sweet 16 after winning their regional, and they were taking on the Azusa Pacific. I don't know what their team name is, but they're from California. They were 22-2, and the Lopers, the number 8 seed in the Sweet 16, took them down 4-1. Excellent job by the Lopers. They advanced to tomorrow's match against the number 1 seed, and I believe they're the 6th-time defending champions and the Barry Buccaneers.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with this UNK squad making it for their first time down here to the Division II tennis championships. But so really impressed with them getting that first round win. And I feel like even though they're just playing tennis down there, this is probably such a great team bonding experience for this team to finally make it down there to this championships, and then just bringing this experience all in and taking it in as a whole. So this is probably just an amazing experience for this Loper tennis squad, and they have a chance to maybe possibly pull off one of the bigger upsets this year in tennis and taking down the number 1 seed in the second round.
And yeah, it's super exciting too. And I'm just trying to read through this again. Unfortunately, Washburn, the other MIAA team to make it to the Sweet 16, lost to Wayne State out of Michigan 4-1 earlier today. But that was really cool to see that Nebraska Kearney advances into the Elite 8. And of course, they got to get some recognitions out there. Starting out, trying to see who won their matches. Narinda Renavio won number 3 singles. Fabiana Gamboa won number 4 singles. As well as Tanya Midzi won number 6 singles. Gotta look at doubles too. And it looks like Melissa Becerra and Narinda Renavio won number 1 doubles. And Jasmine Zamrana and Alexis Bernthal won number 3 doubles. So really exciting. Still zero clue how dual scoring works. Just got to put that out there. But temps, they'll start tomorrow at 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern. And the temps are expected to be in the high 90s. So going to be very interesting because this Barry team is used to the heat. UNK not as much the high 90s. Going to be interested to see how they handle that weather. They played at 8 a.m. Central today. So that's going to be an interesting test.
Yeah, especially for this Loper squad. They've been probably playing in about probably the hottest they've played in all years. Probably in the higher, maybe 80s, but hopefully the humidity is not too bad down there, because if it's about 90 degrees and humid, you got to make sure to be hydrated down there doing anything down in Florida. But that could possibly play a factor for this Loper squad. But it'll be interesting to see that tomorrow at 3 o'clock Central Time here.
And we'll do what we can next week if we have a show. Either way, the next episode that we have, we're going to see if we can get Scott Schaefer on and talk to him a little bit about their time in Orlando. But best luck to the Lopers on Tuesday as they compete in the Elite Eight. Other stuff happening in the college roundup. The Division II track championships are occurring later this week at Emporia State. And I'm glad I remember that because I didn't list that in my rundown for today. And so 10 Lopers qualified for the outdoor championships. Ryland Bassart in javelin had the 5th best national rank. Wes Ferguson in the 800 has the 1st best national rank. Kenyon Forrest in the javelin at 12th. White Hammond, javelin in 16th. Alex Homan, 14th in pole vault. Brayden Sorson, 5th in high jump. Nolan Studley, 12th in high jump. And then on the women's side, Sydney Davis, the Loper volleyball player, also a really good high jumper, 8th in the nation. Lily Novosek, 6th in hammer. And Brianna Russell, 12th in high jump. So, gonna wish them best of luck this weekend at Emporia State.
Yeah, but a lot of Lopers qualifying for the national championships down there in Emporia. And interestingly enough, they're having their Kansas State, our high school state tournament down there too, or track and field championships down there. So my cousin's girlfriend from LA at the North actually qualified for the long jump there. So just a little tidbit to add that there down there in Emporia for the for track and field, a big area for that. But excited to see how the Lopers do down there in the land of the Wizard of the Oz.
And so I talked about this last week. This isn't just the Loper Roundup, at least this week. And I talked about the NCAA committee, and I talked about the Division I softball and how there's all these SEC teams that were hosting regionals and how Big Ten teams were kind of slided. And I was kind of disappointed about that. But, there weren't really many upsets. There was only one SEC team that hosted a regional that failed to qualify for the Super Regionals. None of the big teams advanced out of the regionals, and so it kind of left my point kind of stale because nobody really did anything. But then again, when it comes to Northwestern, they took on the number 1 team in Texas, and so were they probably going to be able to get out of that region? Probably not, but did they deserve to probably be around the top 16? Maybe, but they didn't have a good regional to have a shot in.
Yeah, getting matched up with Texas getting put in the number 1 seeds regional is tough to get out. And a couple of years ago, Nebraska got matched up against Arkansas and almost got by them. And I felt like Nebraska, as a Big Ten team, was just misseeded as well. Getting put in the number 1 seeds regional, I feel like they easily could have been put in a lower seeded regional or maybe even hosted that year. But it just, with the SEC and the Southeast region as a whole just being so dominant in baseball, it's just hard for those Big Ten teams to move up and host regionals. So it's kind of a little unfair, but it's just what we have to deal with as being teams from the Midwest. But obviously the softball is just this year, obviously not a whole lot of upsets, a lot of SEC teams and a couple Pac-12 school, or Big 10, Big 12 schools, whatever you want to call them now that have moved on into that super regional. So very interesting for sure, but just or not very interesting, you could say, with not a whole lot of parity going on in softball.
And on the college baseball side, the Big Ten tournament bracket was released. The Huskers got the number 2 seed. But I'm going to say this as a Minnesota guy, John Anderson, who is finally retiring after like 38 years at the helm of coaching the most wins in Big Ten history. He finished his career with a win on Saturday, so that was cool to see. Any college baseball news that you want to talk about?
I've only tuned into a couple of Nebraska baseball games, but for Nebraska to be able to even make it to a regional, they're going to probably have to win the Big Ten tournament or maybe make it to the championship and get second place. But it's really going to come down to their bullpen. That's what they've struggled with this whole year is they've been up in games and then the bullpen comes in and then they've lost it. So it's just going to depend on those relieving pitchers that come in those 6 through 6, 7, and 8, the ninth innings to come finish those games for the Huskers to be able to make it through this Big Ten tournament. But I'm excited to see what they do tomorrow against Ohio State at 2:00.
And so there's just so many different things going on there. I'll probably pay more attention to baseball as it gets closer to the regionals and stuff. But there's just so many different things going on. And there's one thing that still sticks out to me. I checked back on verbal commits. I searched through Twitter again earlier today. And there's still just one Clayton Moore on UNK's men's basketball roster. And an old Loper found a new home over the weekend. Sean Evans committed to Alaska Anchorage. And so there's still so much to be figured out. And this is what I find interesting. And I've heard that from a couple of different sources that maybe a couple of different players have been offered from different places. And I've also heard this. I've heard that there might be a chance that some players coming to high school that are planning to go to UNK might try out for the team and see if they can make it as like a walk-on. And that's not something you see a lot at the D2 level. And so there's maybe a little bit of concern starting to build up into me that we're hitting May 20th and there's still only just one player on the roster. I know that we hope to get Marty on the show and talk to him later on in the summer when he has more of a team. But building this roster is taking some time, Kade.
Yeah, I've heard from some sources too that are interested in coming to UNK that he's been pretty slow moving right now. He's been looking to kind of not draft, you would say, but to recruit some big guys. That's what UNK the last however many years has not had a solid post presence. So he's been trying to look around and try and find that big post 7-footer that they need on this team to be successful. But I know there's been some junior college transfers around the area, former high school, Nebraska high school players that are interested in coming and playing for the Lopers, and that he's shown interest towards them, and I'm excited to see what this Loper team is able to bring together and make a team here for the winter basketball season coming up. But it is kind of alarming. But there still is only one player on this squad right now in Clayton Moore. But it'll be interesting for sure who he brings in.
And then, of course, the big news in the college landscape just last Thursday and Friday, we have a new college football game coming out. EA has released the trailer and everything, and it's coming out on PS5 and Xbox Series 1, and I'm like, now I really want a PS5 because I want to play this game so badly. First new college football game in 10 years, and it's really exciting. And I don't know if you're as excited as I am, even though I don't even have a PS5, but it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I still actually play, whenever I come home, I play NCAA Football 14 on my Xbox 360. I guess you could say it's my brother's Xbox 360 because my old Xbox 360 hybrid, it does not run very well. So I still play that game, and I'm really stoked for this game. I'm really hoping that it's really nothing like Madden, how it is now. Madden, there's so many glitches and different things like that, and I hope that this NCAA football game actually pans out and is really good. The trailer, obviously, they're going to make it look really good, but looking at that trailer, it looks super cool. I'm excited to see all the different uniforms that all these players or all these teams have now, because in the old NCAA they don't have all the new uniforms that these teams have used, and the updated stadiums and all these different Road to Glory and Dynasty modes that you can play. So I'm really stoked as well to buy NCAA football 25, and I'm ready to get back at it, playing college sports games, which it's been way too long. I feel like that we haven't had it for 10 years, and it was one of the more successful games that EA had. So I'm excited that they figured out a compromise to bring the games back.
There's a couple things that I would love to do if I were able to get a PS5. One of those things would be to transfer Ernest Hausman, the pride of Columbus, Nebraska, over to Minnesota and go win a national championship. That'd be really fun. And there's 134 teams in this game. There are 132 teams in Nebraska high school football between classes A and C2. And there's going to be an online team builder in this game. I would love to have the ability to build each of those 132 teams into the college football game. I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really fun. But then again, I would need a PS5 and the actual game to do it. So that'd be really fun. But I'd love to see, just to have the AI play and just see if a C1 or C2 team could rise to the top.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool to make a team like that. But I got an Xbox Series X, so got that for Christmas. So I'm definitely hoping to buy the game. I don't know if I'll buy it right when it comes out, or I might get it for my birthday in September. But I'm definitely buying the game, and I'm excited to use players that are from Nebraska, like Ernest Hausman, or maybe my old high school teammate Vince Genatone committed to Nebraska. He's as a walk-on, but it was kind of later, so I don't know if he'll be added on to Nebraska's roster as a walk-on. But maybe if I could use Vince Genatone for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, that'd be pretty cool to see that. And I'm really excited to play this game and all the new features that they are adding to this game from the past games. So I'm really stoked for it.
Yeah, so many different cool things about that. But now it's time to transition to our last segment. It's time for the prediction panel parlay. That was actually kind of cool. I played that pretty cool.
That was great. I liked it.
Yeah. So it's time for the prediction panel parlay. So if you remember from season 1 when we had Vita and Trinity, we did these things called hot takes where we tried to pick up a hot take that would happen over the next week. Well, for this season, we decided to rebrand it. We are just calling it the prediction panel parlay. And so both Kate and I, and if we have a guest, we will make a prediction combined with maybe another prediction or two on top of it that will take place over the next week. And so, Kate, do you have a parlay or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
All right, I kind of alluded to this last week whenever I talked about Kyle Larson. Well, Indy 500 qualifying was over the weekend, and he didn't only make it to the Fast 12, he made it to the Fast 6. He qualified 5th for the Indy 500. There's only been one driver in the history of the Indy 500 and Coke 600 to race 1,100 miles, which is completing both the Indy 500 and Coke 600 on the lead lap on the same day. Tony Stewart did it in 2001. Nobody's done it since. And there's been a bunch of drivers who have tried. So I'm going to say that he's going to finish top 5 in both the Indy 500 and Coke 600 and be on the lead lap in both those. I think that's a crazy prediction, but maybe on Sunday he can do it. I think he is that good, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that would definitely be insane if he was able to place that high in both of those, in both ways of racing. But thinking about my parlay I could put up, being that it's still the NBA playoffs, and that's probably the main thing I'm focusing myself on. I think I'll go with both series here. I think that the Timberwolves will win both game 1 and 2. And then for the Boston Celtics, they'll do the same thing. Both the higher seeds and the home teams will win their first 2 games. So the Celtics and the Timberwolves will both start out the series 2-0.
All right, that's a pretty good parlay there. I like this. These are both pretty bold and a good combination. I'm excited to see how they play out. And so that's pretty exciting. So we're also going to keep what's on the mind going. And so what's on my mind today is how long should a head coach have to turn around a team? And this could be for like any sport, but what we're seeing it very common in the NBA. The Phoenix Suns got rid of Frank Vogel after just one season at the helm. The Los Angeles Lakers got rid of Coach Ham. And you're seeing this very common that a lot of these coaches have a very short leash, and they probably should have a longer leash, Cade.
Yeah, I agree. Darvin Ham, I feel like he was let go pretty fast. I feel like they made it to the Western Conference Finals this year. They honestly were in every game with that Denver Nuggets squad in the first round this year. And I feel like he was let go very prematurely. And I feel like you gotta at least give a coach 3 years at the minimum, I would say, to be able to turn around a program. If they can't turn a program around in 3 years and they're still struggling, or a team, you could say, you have to let them go. But I feel like letting go of a coach after 1 year for really no particular reason besides maybe the star player doesn't like him that much or something like that is just something that we don't need in sports with that, because I feel like Frank Vogel, he was just let go way too soon as well. But I don't know. What's your take on it, Elijah?
Like, at what point do we say that the players aren't built right on this roster? Why does it always have to be the coach's fault that you didn't live up to expectations? Like the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to hit on there because he was only there for 1 year. You had KD, Devin Booker. This might have been their year, but Grayson Allen got injured in the playoffs. Like, what more did you really expect? You need another player or two. How is that on the coach to have really gotten you out of that round and not get swept and win a game whenever you have players that are there that are pretty good, but the roster just wasn't constructed as well as it needed to? So shouldn't it have been the president of your basketball operations that should have been let go? Why was it the coach in this instance? And you can talk about that with just about any different thing, and all these situations are very complex. Like with the LA Lakers, with Coach Ham being let go, it was probably LeBron James saying, "Cut him. I don't want him coaching me anymore." And that's where in the NBA you see it a lot, where we give the players so much power that they're almost like they're the general manager of the team instead of the actual president of basketball operations. And you need to see now that power should start being reduced, because a player is just one piece to this team. They aren't the entire team, and they shouldn't be managing this entire team.
Yeah, and it really honestly depends. I've noticed too is on the bigger market teams are the coaches that get absolutely ripped. I feel like for no reason, honestly. If you want to talk about NFL wise, Mike McCarthy on Get Up and First Take, they rip Mike McCarthy so much. I'm like, what is this dude? What do you want him to do? He went the last couple. He's won 12 games the last 2 years, I think it is, or he's won double-digit games the last 2 years for the Cowboys coach, and they're still winning more out of him. Like, what else do you want out of Mike McCarthy?
In Dallas, you have a World Series champion. The other two teams are in the conference finals, and the Cowboys haven't been able to reach the conference championship. That's what they expect out of them. And that's because they're the Cowboys. They're the America's team. They bring in the most rings. They want them to get to the destination. But that's also the thing with the national media. All they care about are the Lakers, the Yankees, and the Cowboys. That's all they care about. And that's all they talk about. And so you just see it there too. And so I'm actually shocked that Mike McCarthy hasn't been let go yet with the way that's been. Like, yeah, he's had regular season success, but he hasn't had that in the postseason. And so this year's kind of like his make or break year. He's kind of on the hot seat, in my opinion. And
100%. It just with these bigger market teams, I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on the whole organization as a whole, with the players and the coaches to perform. Because if you don't perform, you're just going to get ridiculed in the media if you're on the Lakers, or it's like playing with LeBron James. These players get absolutely just flamed on Twitter for if they play bad or anything. But that just comes with playing with the LeBron James, or playing for a team like the Knicks or the Lakers. It just comes with it. But I feel like it's really unfair, and it honestly depends on the team for how long a coach stays. Because if there's been teams where the coaches struggle the first couple of years, but then they've been able to figure it out the next couple of years. If a coach for LeBron struggles for 1 year or even 2 years, they're gone, and it just really just depends on the players that are on the team. And I feel like you said, the players need a little less power here. And they need to maybe put a little more blame on themselves than they need to put on these coaches.
It almost feels like LeBron James can do no wrong. Like, it's LeBron James. What more do you want? He's given it his all. And I'm like, but he is starting to age. At some point, he can't do what he could do in his prime when he was winning all those NBA finals. And so we're trying to give him all his wants. Like, Bronny James is in the NBA draft when he's not ready to be in the NBA. He's played one season of college ball and didn't really do much. And now he's in the NBA draft. And that's all because of a bigger picture, because he wants to play with his son. And he just can build whatever team that he wants because he has an ownership group that will give him what he wants. And at some point, you gotta see that he is aging and he doesn't have what he used to have anymore. And he's not going to help you contend for championships unless it's the in-season tournament.
Yeah, I feel like he's really stunting his growth of his son here. I feel like at least Bronny James need at least 1 to 2 more years in college to be able to compete at the NBA level, and he's just kind of getting thrown in the fire there just because his dad's 39 years old and his years in the NBA are fading, so he wants to play with his son as long as possible. But I feel like he's really giving his son a disservice here, bringing him into the NBA so fast, which I feel like the Lakers are probably going to take him with their second-round pick because I don't think anybody else is going to take a pick on him. But LeBron has been doing that his whole career. He's been picking and choosing his whole team, and a kind of a just hand picking and trading all their first round draft picks to get a superstar on their team. But I feel like LeBron, this is kind of, I guess it's kind of moving on away from what we're talking about, but he kind of changed his team around after the COVID bubbles team when they had a JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and then he traded all those guys away, and then they got Russell Westbrook. And I feel like ever since then, they've just not been able to figure it out because Russell Westbrook was not the right player to get put with LeBron James, because LeBron James and Russell Westbrook are so ball dominant. Those two just didn't fit well together. I feel like that Lakers team that won the bubble championship needed to stick together. I feel like they could have won multiple NBA championships after the bubble, but with LeBron and his power, whatever he says, they're going to do it. And if he didn't like that, maybe he didn't like the group of guys that they had, but which made no sense to me. But it just kind of,
we've turned into the national media. We're talking about the Cowboys.
We're talking
and
about
Lakers.
LeBron, because how does this affect LeBron's legacy? That's what we're talking.
All we need to do now is just talk about Dak Prescott and if he's the right fit for the Dallas Cowboys, and if he should be going elsewhere after this year, and if it's time to move on from. That's all we need to do to complete this media, national media circuit.
We're perfect, yeah. We're almost there. We're
But
halfway.
I do want to tag on and talk about LeBron James a little bit more. And we see this idea of a super team. And these super teams, you see them built all the time. You had a team up in Brooklyn with the Brooklyn Nets. And you had all these great players and Harden and Irving and KD all together. And the thing is that super teams just don't work as well as they would in theory. They just don't work. And yet we see them constantly trying to be built.
Yeah, they don't work because I feel like you need, I like to talk about like the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. They're just perfectly built teams. That's why I felt like the winner of that series is gonna be the team that finishes on top this year. They have the perfectly built teams. They have a point guard, with Jamal Murray, Mike Conley. Then they have kind of their ball dominant guy, but different sizes with Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic. But then they have those outside shooters and slashers like a Naz Reid, Aaron Gordon, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, MPJ, or even a Kyle Anderson. You just have perfectly built teams that cover all areas of the basketball court. And with these super teams, when you have a Kyrie, Harden, Kevin Durant, all those guys do is want to score. Besides, maybe you could say Kyrie Irving and Harden are a little bit facilitators. I would say Kyrie a little more, but all those guys, they want to score first. And it just doesn't work doesn't work in the NBA like that now. You need a point guard that can get the ball to your stars. That's why the Suns struggled so much this year. They didn't have a point guard, but they had 3 main stars. But if you don't have a guy that can get the ball to your stars, you don't have a guy that can protect the rim, you're going to struggle. And that's what these teams have now with, and even Rudy Gobert for the Timberwolves, they have a rim protector. They have a point guard, Mike Conley. And I just feel like if you can build your team like that, where you can have a good point guard and you can have a solid rim protector and surround them with shooters and have your main ball dominant star, that's how you build championship teams. But the super team thing that LeBron started at the Miami Heat in the early 2010s, it just doesn't work anymore in the NBA.
Yeah, we make some really good points, especially UK there down the stretch. Some really good ideas there, some really good points, and I mean, I'm glad we're doing this, bringing it onto Summer Edition here and bringing the heat. This week was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we did this, and so a lot more excitement still to be had here as we keep this going. Not sure the next time that we'll be talking together. Hopefully it'll be next week, but this is a lot of fun, Kade.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Huge weekend. Good sports. Ready to recap the NBA Conference Finals next week.
All right, we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Bringing the Heat, a 91.1 KLPR sports production. You can listen to all episodes wherever you get your podcasts.